What about it then? Not too bad after all, is it? 2 wins from 2 for West Ham United, 1-0 at home to Olympiacos in the Europa League. Sees us sitting pretty at the top of our group, qualification all but in the bag. Happy days indeed. And then an oh-so-dramatic 5-goal thriller at home to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. But it was never in doubt that West Ham were coming home with the points, back up to 9th in the Premier League, flirting with those European positions in the top flight, and we're doing well in the European competition through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. It couldn't be going any better at this stage of the season, could it? Well, it could, according to absolutely loads of people that I've spoken to and read on Twitter in the last couple of weeks, who are determined to get the worst manager they've ever seen out of our club. Still continues to baffle me week in, week out. But I enjoyed very much indeed the last 2 West Ham United home games. All right, the Olympiacos one wasn't particularly pretty. You might not remember it forever, but I'm sitting there watching West Ham United win a game in Europe's second biggest competition. And compared to the vast majority of my life watching the Hammers, that is very good and very rare indeed. I'm delighted to say that joining me is James Jones. He's very good. And to have a talent like his at podcasting is also very rare indeed. Jonesy, delighted to see you again. Delighted to see you on Friday night for my birthday. And quite frankly, James, West Ham did me the honour of winning both of the home games that I went to as I celebrated turning 32, both on Thursday, and then again on Sunday. Did you enjoy both of the games as much as I did?
I did. I think you're right about Olympiacos. It was a bit forgetful, but we'll take the win. We won't remember that for very long. But it was a win. Win's a win. We needed it after losing to them away. It also does guarantee us knockout European football of some description beyond Christmas. We can't finish bottom of the group, so
we might be in to defend our Conference League trophy.
We could be. There's there's potential there. I think we will go on and win the group now. I can see us beating Freiburg at home, and even if we don't, as long as we avoid defeat, we've finished at the top, because unless everything goes wrong in Serbia against Baka Topola, we will top that group based on head-to-head if we finish level with Freiburg. So.
Right.
All very positive there. And then the Nottingham Forest game, enjoyed that very much. What a game of football. Very good fun.
Brilliant.
Obviously, we were saying as we walked out, we're like, that was a good game of football. But it definitely helps that we won, because if we'd have lost, we wouldn't have been saying, oh, that was a good game of football. So, but it was just generally, like, for a neutral, watching it on TV at home, it would have been like, oh, that was quite fun. But yeah, it's, happy days.
James, am I right in saying that 3 minutes 24 seconds into the recording of the We Are West Ham podcast that you've got a food delivery at your front door?
No, I haven't. No, it's just detected. My Ring doorbell's detected. Oh, we have had a delivery.
A bloke with a big box of Hello Fresh.
No, that came yesterday. Right.
Okay.
We had a delivery of some sort, but I don't know. Lucy's picked that up.
Oh, right, fine. Yeah, long-term listeners will know, of course, that Jonesy likes to duck out and pick up his food delivery every single week when we do the podcast, even like this week when we do it on a different day, it turns out. It's not HelloFresh anymore, is it? Is it Gusto?
Gusto, yeah. This wasn't a food delivery, though. I don't know what it is.
No.
But
anything interesting you can share? Or?
I think it might be. If it's not Christmas presents, it might be my one blade razor being delivered. I've got a subscription every 3 months to get a new razor blade delivered. And it might be that, because I know it's due any minute now. So it could be that.
One blades, revolutionary, aren't they?
I got one for Christmas 2 years ago, and I can't believe I never had one before then. Unbelievable bit of kit.
They really are, aren't they? You know, all due respect to our former sponsors, Manscaped and all that. Good for different parts of your body, but the Philips One Blade, couldn't agree more. Great. Where do you use yours? On the old face? Bit of chest hair as well?
On the face. I still use my Manscaped for other areas of the body.
Yeah.
But a little insight into my grooming habits there.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I only use the one blade on my face, and it's done a better job than any of the other products I've used in the past. So
Yeah, I quite agree, mate.
I'm a committed one blade fan now. Never
Yeah.
going back.
No, totally agree, mate. Yeah, the hashtag this is not an ad.
Yeah.
We do just like Philips One Blades, but yeah, Manscaped, as I mentioned, also good for other areas of your body. Anyway, it's completely unnecessary and annoyingly, James, unpaid sidetrack into products we like. Yeah, honestly, I just think, I you know what, mate, I'm just determined and to be positive at the moment. I had one argument and another like head in hands moment when over the last two games, right? Each game I've had a different interaction with a fellow West Ham fan. And the first one really done my head. It like really annoyed me. It was after the game on Thursday night. Went down there and I went to the Outpost. I don't know if we've spoken about this before. New pub that's popped up at Westfield by Haugen, which is on the way out.
Yep,
The
been there a few
big
times.
fancy wooden building. Yeah,
good pub.
I didn't even know it existed. I only went there. My dad told me about it a few weeks ago. I think it's for the Everton game, and yeah, I've been there every single game since, either before or after. Really like it.
We've done it a couple of times when earlier in the season when it was like still really hot. It was like unusually hot for like that time of year, sort of coming out of August and September. And that pub when the weather's nice and it's hot out the front of there because it's a sun trap right at the front of there. Great times.
Yeah. Well, that's the only thing I'm a little bit worried about now is talking about it, especially on here, because I don't really want people to know about it.
We've said that as well in the group. Yeah. Don't tell anyone about this pub because
don't tell anyone. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so maybe edit this bit out or something. But no, yeah. So went in there afterwards. Met a couple of friends of mine. Luton Steve, if anyone remembers, he was the opposition view for Luton earlier on in the season. Very well received video on YouTube indeed. And I said to him at the time, I think he's sort of closet West Ham. Goes to most of the cup games with a friend of his from work who often gets tickets. So he was there for the European game. He said he doesn't feel like it's cheating on Luton because he's happy to come and support and cheer for West Ham in Europe because it's the competition Luton aren't in. So I met up with him afterwards, a couple of his mates, and one bloke said these words to me, right? Bearing in mind I was driving, so I'd had 2 bottles of gluten-free Peroni. We'll get on to that in a minute. And one of his mates goes to me, a West Ham fan, and he goes, "All right, how many more games does Moyes get?" And I went, "What do you mean? How many more games like this before Moyes is sacked?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh, just how many more games until he goes?" And I was like, "Well, what you mean? How many more victories in Europe?" Right? And he was like, no, the recent form has been absolutely terrible. And I just, honestly, mate, I proper touched the nerve. And I just went, and because obviously it helps doing the podcast, I must admit, I did feel like a bit of a wally, but because it helps doing the podcast, you sort of, a lot of the stats are sort of to hand. So I went, what? You mean like being floating around the top half of the league? I said, having picked up, at the time it was 11 games. I said, well, having picked up 4 wins and 2 draws from 11 games, 5 of which were games against the current top 7. A win against Brighton away, who haven't beaten for more than a decade. And beating Chelsea at home. So, and still being about where everyone would have expected after this amount of games. And being top of our European group, our 3rd season in a row in Europe, which we have never achieved in the whole club's history. I said, what, how many more games of that?
Of the League Cup.
Yeah, and beating Arsenal. Sorry, I did reel that one off. At home in the quarterfinals, in the last 16 of the League Cup. What, you mean, how many more games of that load of rubbish? No, what? And he was a bit taken aback. And it just really annoyed me. It annoys me generally anyway. But I was like, what? Who do you think you're supporting here? Like, what more do you want? Like, and then after, but this other one was a friend of my dad's, and we turned up to the game, and how's it going? Yeah, good. He said, but I just don't know what it takes for Moyes to get sacked. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, are you looking at the league table? Do you know what we're doing in these competitions? Like, we're not out or performing poorly in any of the competitions we're in, right? In the Premier League, based on the teams we've played, we are 9th, right? Which is decent. Not every single game, even, mate, you ask Man City fans, or, even Tottenham are doing well at the moment, wherever, Liverpool, not every single game your team plays, they play like 90s, 70s Brazil, whoever you are. That doesn't happen in football. So, but let alone if you're West Ham, and we're 9th in the Premier League. All right, the winner against Forest, right? There's clearly like you go, there's some holes in that performance, whatever, defensively. It's like, yeah, but we showed like really encouraging signs in other parts of our game. Like people talk about what an important skill it is to battle to win sometimes, right? If you're doing it all the time, it's not sustainable. But every now and then, when your form's a bit low or whatever, you need a proper dig in and like throw yourself into challenges and that sort of thing, and just generally look like you want it and hope one goes in off someone's backside or whatever. And that's pretty much what happened at Forest. There were some moments in that game where you go, that's not great. But I just feel like people go to football these days, West Ham in particular, sort of expecting them to play like Real Madrid, and be perfect for every element of every game. And like, we've had 2 good wins there. We were the better team in both of those games against Forest and Olympiacos. And it's almost like now even wins give people fuel to want rid of the manager. And I'm just like, well, you must really thrive off of and want instability at the club. Because if you think we're getting someone that much better than David Moyes, who could do that much of a better job across all the competitions than we currently are at the moment, then crack on. But you'll be the same people moaning when the new person comes on and, it all goes to pot, or it's not quite as good. And like, it can't get that much better with the money West Ham spend and the size of a club we are. It can't get that much better than what it's going to be at the moment, because you're then into the realms of Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Tottenham, spending wise. Like, it can't get loads better. And it just does my head in. It did again this week.
Mate, we've covered this a couple of times, and I think...
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No, what I mean is that there's a lot of fans out there that have looked at those first 2 seasons when Moyes returned, 6th and 7th, a Europa League semi-final, and gone, right, well, that's our level now. That's our level.
Yeah.
And then we've gone and won a European trophy. But we've won a European trophy alongside having a poor season in the Premier League, finishing 14th. And I think what that's done is gone...
recent metrics, yeah.
Yeah, so what that's done has gone, well, a lot of fans are going, well, we finished 6th and 7th the season before. Okay, brilliant, we've won a trophy, we've ended that trophy drought. But he's taken us down. He's taken us down a level by finishing 14th. And then you lose 3 in a row the following season, despite being top of the league only a month earlier. And fans are like, well, this is it then. This is it.
Yeah,
we're not going to finish 6th or 7th. And I know I did voice some concerns about whether we were capable of doing it this year, only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
In the middle of that run, I was like, I'm just not sure whether we've got enough about us. There's too many issues within that team defensively for us to be in and amongst that top 7 this year, and that's where we want to finish. And part of me still thinks some of that is true. I think it's going to be a lot harder for us this year. But then people are looking at, if we didn't lose to Everton at home, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. It was that defeat where people went, well, this is getting silly now. This is getting silly.
Yeah.
And had that game been a one-off, in the middle of a run of 5 wins or something, maybe it would have been less of an issue. But it came off the back of losing to Villa, get battered by Villa, which was a fair result. Like Villa deserved it. We deserved to get beat that day. And then losing to Olympiacos. And then people are like, well, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And that was when I went, oh, maybe we aren't capable of competing in that top 7 or top 8, which is why I thought maybe this could be his last season, because the club are going to want us to push on and at least be competing up there. If we have another year season finishing 13th, 14th, 15th, then the club might see reason for change. But at the same time, you can't, off the back of beating Olympiacos on Thursday and beating Nottingham Forest on the Sunday, go, well, I still think he's got to go. It's like, well, what more do you want? We've won 3 of our last 4 games. Okay, that was our first win in the league in 5, but we've won 3 of our last 4 in all competitions. We stopped the rot after losing 4 in a row, or whatever it was, 3 in a row. I mean, I'm positive. I'm quite happy about it. If you look at our upcoming fixtures, we covered that last week. Like, there's reason to be optimistic now. You look at it and go, well, we beat Burnley in a couple of weeks after the national break, and we're back in the mix again.
Yeah.
And there's every reason to believe that we will go to Turf Moor and get a result, because Burnley are poor this year. Like, they're going to go back down. They can't score goals, and defensively, I think they're the worst defence in the league at the moment. There's a reason they're bottom of the league. So we should go there and get 3 points. No one will be surprised if we don't, but the expectation is that we will. So you win that, and then suddenly it's like, well, happy days. You've got Palace the week after. Should beat them, really. A little bit more difficult game.
Yeah, it's
but
one of
suddenly
them.
It's like,
you'd like to think at home, wouldn't you?
You go into the Tottenham game, and expectations are a little bit less then, because we're not desperate for a win going into that Spurs game.
No, you obviously want to win because it's Spurs.
Of course you do.
You're right. Yeah.
But the likelihood is, given the form Spurs are in, although I did very much enjoy them losing to Wolves at the weekend, and Chelsea a few nights earlier. What a game that was, by the way. Like, there is every chance we could get a result against them as well, because this is football and this is the way it's going, and this is where we are at the moment as a football club. Like, it's a little bit unpredictable, but it's great, and it's unpredictable in a good way, because we're doing well. Like, I haven't got any complaints now.
No. Honestly, it just the one on Thursday after the game really rattled me. It really, really annoyed me, and it was just it was like, honestly, it was how many more games of this, and I was like, how much more of this hell have you got to endure watching us be good in Europe and beating Arsenal at home in the cup competition, the only game we've had? And you watch, though, we go out away to Liverpool, that'd be Moyes' fault. We should be winning this competition. Well, if we'd have drawn Port Vale, fair enough. But we've got Arsenal home and Liverpool away. Right? That's luck of the draw, as with any cup competition. Like, you couldn't do better in the Europa League. Other than, look, I was at Olympiacos away. I was furious with that. That was a genuinely bad performance, and I blame David Moyes directly for the weak team he picked. What I love to see on Sunday, we'll go into this in a bit more detail. I'm just absolutely blaring. Look, bit of a different show this week. Obviously, the international break coming up. England play Malta on Friday at Wembley. Obviously, a few of our other players scattered around the globe playing international games, apart from Danny Ings. What a surprise. He'll be back at Channel Heath, hopefully working on his new skill as kit man or water boy, or bloke who collects corner flags, or maybe he could be one of the groundsmen. Just trying to think of various different ways West Ham could get their money's worth out of him, who they're paying £125,000 a week. So all it's going to be is a little introduction, which you've heard there. It's going to be me and James looking back on those 2 excellent wins, probably a bit more moaning in the similar style you've heard from me just now about how people can't just be positive at the moment, and then some final thoughts for another week before we wrap up. Just a quick note, actually, the old Claret and Blue views, which a few of you liked. We've got a few of them in the bag, but obviously they've been pretty busy weeks in the last couple. So what we're hoping to do is release another one either later on this week or early next week, just as a standalone podcast, a Claret and Blue View, because this is the international break. But what we found is when we've had the run of 2 games a week for the last couple of weeks, which is 2 games to look back on, 2 games to look forward to, that's an absolute mountain of content to get recorded and out within the same week. So rather than just pile it all up and have you guys miss some of it, some of the Claret and Blue Views, we've just been tempering those, the rate at which we put those out a bit, just so when you have sort of a bit more drier, barren weeks, like the international break or games where we perhaps have 1 or 2 less games than usual, then we can drip feed them in then, just for something a bit different, and means you're not just having feast and famine as far as content goes, where you just have loads to get through 1 week and then absolutely nothing or very little the week after. So yeah, hope to have an opposition Claret and Blue View with you later on this week or early next week, and then obviously once the international break is over, we go to Burnley. It'll be normal service resumed until mine and James's customary 2-week Christmas break, but we'll get into all the details of that as we go on. Just want to give you a little bit of a heads up about that. James, I'm going to come to you at the end of the housekeeping here, because you've got a little update for listeners of the podcast, watchers on YouTube, whatever. So housekeeping, follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. You can get me at William Pugh _. James is at by James Jones. Get us on Instagram at We Are West Ham Pod, and you can get us on Facebook as well if you fancy it. Email us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com if you so wish. Plus, you please do leave us a review, 5 stars and some nice words, or some mean words, whichever you fancy, really, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget, this one's important. If you don't already, James is doing an excellent job. Go over and follow us on YouTube. You can watch along some of the individual clips. James puts them up, the Claret and Blue Views, the opposition views, little reaction bits, anything you like, really. James sorts it all out over there. So go and subscribe to We Are West Ham Podcast on YouTube. And don't forget, of course, you can buy us a pint if you want. Me and Jonesy, hung out on Friday. He graced me with his presents for my birthday. Got an absolute schooling at ping pong, to be fair. You got lucky with your partner, Jonesy, to be fair, didn't you? But you had a couple of shandies by the time you arrived. So level dropped off a cliff. Yeah, exactly. Level drops off a cliff fairly quickly. But yeah, if you fancy chipping in to buy me and James a pint when we're together, you can. That's buymeacoffee.com/we are West Ham. So, Jonesy, tell us, what have you got to update everyone on?
Yeah, well, I'm constantly looking at different ways to engage the audience a little bit, and WhatsApp have released a thing called channels. People, those with WhatsApp may have noticed it. West Ham have got their own channel, and essentially it's just a feed of content for that news organisation, that podcast, whatever, that football club. And we've got one now. We've got a We Are West Ham podcast WhatsApp channel. So anyone with WhatsApp, which I'm sure would be most of our listeners, just click on the updates section when you boot up your WhatsApp and search for us. We've also got a link which we've put out on our Twitter account so you can just literally click on it, go directly to it. But we'll be putting all of our content in there. I'll be running it. So far we've got 7 followers, which is great. But that doesn't include one William Pugh. He hasn't, for some reason. I don't know why he hasn't, but I sent it to him. He gave me a thumbs up on the WhatsApp group. I said subscribe, and he didn't. Maybe he just doesn't like what I'm doing in there. But please go in there. Please give us a follow if you've got WhatsApp. It'd be much appreciated. We've got plenty of content in there. I'll be posting videos. Probably get around to doing some images, but before the Olympiacos game, I asked fans, big one tonight, what are we all saying? And then you basically can react to whatever we post in there with an emoji. No one can type anything in there apart from us, but you can react to all the content we put in there with an emoji of your choice. Great way to engage with us. And hopefully we can find ways of engaging you guys further, giving you guys some more content on different platforms. But WhatsApp channels, We Are West Ham Podcast, get involved.
Well, that sounds brilliant. James Jones, another example of your exemplary off-pod work, as we call it. Just all things administration. You're doing an absolutely sterling job, mate. The YouTube subscribers continuing to grow slowly but surely, and I'm sure that this new idea of yours is going to bear fruit as well. And I assure you that, that I will start following you. So you sent me the link, didn't you? I wasn't aware at the time it was something that was an actionable task for me. I thought you were just like, this is a thing that we're doing now. I was like, brilliant. Yeah, you're good at all this stuff. I trust you implicitly.
Sent you the link and said, because we did toy with the idea of doing something on WhatsApp with a thing called WhatsApp Communities a while back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But the trouble with that is that we had no way of hiding our phone numbers. So everyone would have our phone number because it was more like WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, right.
But then, like in a more sort of like formatted channel, you could have different channels, and then fans could talk to each other and stuff like that. Right, so we kind of scrapped that idea, and then WhatsApp have announced this thing called Channels, which is just basically a stream of content that we can post, and then people can react with emojis. So I sent that to you, and you gave me a thumbs up. I said this would be a good way to engage our audience further. You gave me a thumbs up emoji, and I thought, okay, well, he's done that. And I know you haven't subscribed because we can't see who the followers are unless they're in our contacts.
Yeah.
So we've only got one follower who I can see because I've got their contact. Is my brother.
Yeah.
Because I forced him to do it the other day. Yeah. But the other 5 in that 7 as well as me. So we've got 5 people listening to this podcast right now who are already involved. But one of which isn't you, mate.
All right, fair enough, mate. Yeah. I'll be honest. 7 at the moment feels like quite a minuscule percentage of our podcast listeners. So, how do people find this? So. No, quite. Yeah. How do people find it then? If they're thinking, all right, I'll have some of that.
You go onto WhatsApp.
Find where to go.
Boot up WhatsApp, and then the bottom left on iPhone, on iOS. I don't know what it's like on Android, but bottom left there's a button called Updates. And that's where you can do your statuses and whatever else.
Right.
But then there's a thing called Channels.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm doing it as we speak.
You click on Channels, and you go Find Channels, search for us, and we should be there.
Find Channels. You hit the little plus icon. Follow your interests on WhatsApp. Yeah, accept and continue. So explore We Are West Ham. Oh, James, I hate to break it to you. All I've got at the moment is the West Ham United. Look, I'm showing you the camera.
Yeah, I'm getting the same. I don't know why we're not showing up, but if you...
Oh, dear. Well, this is an absolute disaster.
We've posted a link on our Twitter. We'll put it on our Instagram as well today, so people can do it. I've already given you a link and now on WhatsApp, so you can just go back and click on that.
Yeah, you have, haven't you? Right, let me do that now.
Channel.
So actually, then, so that was probably one of the here we go. The least professional how-tos. I thought that was a really good idea. Let's talk them through it, how they do it. But yeah, it doesn't actually show up, does it? So right. I've got it. So what do I do now? Follow. Okay, there we go. Right, I'm following James. I'm following We Are West Ham, the We Are West Ham podcast on WhatsApp. Am I an admin or not? Can I be an admin, or are you in charge of that?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, this feels like more of an off-pod conversation.
It does, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It does.
Bringing the admin to the listeners at the moment. Right, fine. Well, I'm on there. If you want to, I'll tell you what we'll do. James he's posted it out on Twitter, the link. And for this week, James, why don't we put it as our pinned tweet? So you just need to go and follow at @WeAre_West Ham. Go and find us on Twitter at the top. There'll be the WhatsApp channel link that James has sorted out. Right, James, let's crack on with this podcast. So just a reminder, you'll have a look back next, then some final thoughts. That'll be all. And I'll try and get you a claret and blue view out before the international break is over. Stay with us. Right, James, 1-0 against Olympiacos. I don't think we need to do it at length, to be honest. Lucas Paqueta's goal in the 73rd minute was enough to separate the teams. Look, Olympiacos didn't have a shot on target. We had 5. They had all of the ball. We had all the ball, 56% possession of the ball, outdone them on passes, pass accuracy. All the stats are in our favour, right? We even beat them on corners. Now, the win puts us 5 points above them with 2 games to play. It would take some sort of mini miracle for us to certainly not qualify for the knockout stage of the Europa League. It would certainly take a mini miracle for us to end up in the Conference League, quite honestly. I didn't, again, people sort of painting out that it was terrible. All right, it wasn't great, but, we were better than them for the majority of the game, and we definitely deserved the win. I must admit, I did think Paqueta's goal was offside. It was one of them classic ones. It was the other end of the ground to me. You were down that end, weren't you? So I don't know if you had a different idea of it.
I was convinced it was going to get ruled out. I was like, he was miles off. It's going to get ruled out.
Oh, if you were convinced, then I had no chance up the other corner.
Yeah, it was right in line with us, and I was thinking, he's well off. He's well off. Didn't even celebrate.
I literally I didn't even stand up. Sometimes when a goal goes in and you think there's like half a chance it might get ruled out, you stand up at least, don't you? And just sort of wait. I was like, no chance. Just going to sit here, just chat to me dad. And then it was like, goal. I was like, oh, yay. But yeah, all in all, again, everyone afterwards, again, I don't know what it is, mate. I think it's just catching. I'm starting to feel like a bit of the weirdo, though. Right? Just in a little club of one. Like, no, you're in it as well. My dad's sort of, he thinks it's all right at the moment. Yeah, I had a couple of people come up to me after the game. Oh, what do you think of that then? I was like, we just won 1-0 in Europe, didn't we? To go top of the group. Well, yeah, but it wasn't very good, was it? I don't know. We were all over them, and another day it could have been 3-0. They didn't have a sniff at scoring against us, which is part of football as well. And we found a breakthrough, and we won the game. Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. If you want to look at it like that, yeah, I do. Of course, I do. Of course, I want to look at it like that because my team are winning in Europe. Like, I don't know, James. This podcast, I'll be honest, is going to be a lot of Groundhog Day for a lot of people. If you're a long-term listener to We Are West Ham, what you're going to get from me is confusedness, bafflement, confusion is a better word, I think, about other people, other fans, still managing to be dour and down in the dumps after 2 victories. And excuse me, and a lot of moaning about Mikel Antonio and Said Benrahma. So if you're sort of coming here expecting a bit of a different We Are West Ham podcast this week, that's what you're going to get from me. Talk to me, James.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. It was a bit of a huff and puff type performance. I think there were traits that we were still lacking some creativity in the final third, which led to the fact that we only won 1-0. And that's been a problem for a long time. But you're right. Olympiacos didn't have a sniff, didn't have a shot on target. They barely threatened us at all. It didn't even look like they were going to have a shot on target for much of the game. And okay, the goal was, there was question marks over at the time whether he was offside, which kind of diluted the celebration a little bit until it was confirmed as a goal. But when you're winning games like that in Europe, like at the end of the day, in group stage football, the aim is to win the group. And at the moment, we're winning the group. Like I said earlier, all we've got to do is avoid defeat against Freiburg, and we will win the group, barring a cock-up in Serbia. So you've got to be pleased with that. Okay, the performances aren't well-rounded, fantastic, great performances that perhaps we were used to a couple of years ago when Moyes first came back. The fact is we're grinding out results. And when you've gone out results in group stage football, 9 times out of 10, it means that you're gonna win the group, go through to the last 16, and happy days. We don't want to finish second in the group because that means having to play a Champions League dropout. So you want to win the group.
Yeah.
Cut 2 games out in February and you're laughing.
Yeah.
So, okay, it wasn't pretty. And we've only ground out a 1-0 win through a late goal. But I will take that every day of the week if it means if we did that every single game between now and the final, no one's going to complain and go, "Oh, well, not really happy about that, though, am I? Oh, I might not go. I might not go to the final in Dublin because we might only got to grind out a 1-0 win in Dublin as well. Yeah, we won the Europa League, but it wasn't pretty, was it? Don't care. Let's be honest, the Conference League final wasn't pretty for us, and we still managed to grind out a 2-1 win. So happy days. I'll take it all day long.
Yeah, quite like it from you, James. The Forest game then. A bit of I had this weird thing. I don't know if it's just sort of my general feeling of like being an anarchic West Ham fan, which at the moment, like the anarchy comes from being happy about supporting West Ham. It's almost like that stance is like raging against the machine. That's like, I feel like I'm sort of fighting a one-man battle against the completely undeserved negativity, and I'm really enjoying. All right, the Everton game was really bad, right? Olympiacos really bad. I went to both of those games just like I went to the 2 before, but I was able to take them with the appropriate and necessary amount of context in which they should be taken. Like, I'm not just, and I'm careful to like make this clear. I'm not just a blind, one-eyed Moyes apologist who I actually love. I do have huge respect for David Moyes and what he's done at the club, and think he's our greatest manager, certainly of the modern era, easily top 3 of all time. But after Olympiacos, whack between the eyes. David Moyes' fault there. He set the tone with the team he set out. Far too weak in attacking areas. And to be fair to him, even when he has made changes, he hasn't gone that weak again. Danny Ings hasn't started a game since. Should never start a game for West Ham from this moment on. So from that perspective, it's not just, I'm not just, rah-rah David Moyes all the time. But the Forest game, I don't know what your thoughts were. I just felt confident before the game and throughout the whole game. I thought we deserved to win. I thought we showed real. It annoyed me slightly that, and I could sort of see this. I went with, one of my best mates who's slightly towards the more sort of moany negative end of the scale, but not unreasonable with it. And he made a fairly salient point, which I accepted, was that the bit that frustrated him was that we go 1-0 up after 3 minutes, and then we just sort of get all nice and comfortable as if the game's won. And he was like, well, go again. And to be honest, I blame Lucas Paqueta, because we could have had 5 in that game if it wasn't for him. The build-up when he got down to your end of the pitch, so towards the away fans, for anyone who doesn't know where James sits, after it was already 1-0, and all he needed to do was cushion the ball through to James Ward-Prowse on the edge of the box, and Ward-Prowse was through. Instead, Paqueta decided to control it and hit the weakest shot ever at the keeper. And then with that, not that Nottingham Forest deserved it, but you do leave yourself open to what happened, which is Forest equalising at the end of the first half. And then it's all sort of doom and gloom and disappointment going in at half time. But once again, we were the better team in the first half, weren't we? We just got a little bit comfortable. But then in the second half, all right, they go 2-1 up. I would argue undeserved. But then that's when we showed real passion and a real bit of fire. And that is the one thing I will accept. It was the same at Olympiacos away. Sometimes we don't show that sort of 4th or 5th gear that we have got in our armour because we're a good team with good players. We sometimes don't show that. until the other team have done something, or until, as it was at Olympiacos away, it's too late. But luckily on Sunday, Forest almost shot themselves in the foot by scoring and coming back into the game as early as they did, because that sort of gave us enough time to kick on and show a bit of passion and fight and kick on into the gears we needed to win the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there were periods in the game where it was frustrating. I remember a couple of times in the second half where we'd won the ball in midfield and we had a chance to break, and it goes out wide to Kudus on the right hand side, and he kind of just lacks that urgency to drive forward with the ball, and he almost kind of stops with it, and then either plays it back or waits for a couple of players to run ahead of him or something like that, and then thinks about going. And it was like, where's your urgency? Like, and this is a player that's in the team to drive the ball forward in attacking areas. Yeah. And it made a couple of times he did it, and I made me think, is he being told to put his foot on a brake a little bit here? Because it just didn't seem like the Kudus that we've seen already this season, where he gets the ball, wants to try and beat a player. And so there were a couple of things like that, but we had more about us to score more than the three. Suchek hit the bar, capitalising on that dodgy back pass. Unlucky, can't do much about that. Couple of chances, that Paqueta one, I remember seeing that game. He should have just laid that off in the first half.
That was huge.
We were fortunate with the first goal so early on. Obviously, it was a bit of a defensive error, but it was still a good finish from Paqueta. But I think the key thing for us was when we went 2-1 down, and it was almost the West Ham of old, where you go a goal down, and you're not that bothered because you've got it. We've got it in us to get back into it. Yeah. So they go 2-1 up against the runner play, and you think, but we went straight down the other end, won a corner, and scored from it literally within 90 seconds, something like that. Yeah. And I thought that was the turning point, because Nottingham Forest, that would have knocked the wind out of Nottingham Forest sails a little bit, because they were buzzing to go 2-1 up, because they didn't.
Yeah, the fans were, weren't they?
Yeah. And then just to peg them back immediately, that would have just that damaged their confidence a little bit. And obviously after that, we just pummeled them corner after corner. Yeah. And eventually we got it through Suchek. But I thought it was a good performance. There were some things that we still need to improve on. I still think our final third play, half the time, could be better. Decision making in the final third could be better. I feel like a broken record on that, but it's still an issue. We're still relying on set pieces to win games. But that will come. I'm sure that will come. He's played Bowen up front for the second time in the Premier League, and he's got 2 goals. So as a striker, that's a good sign. I still feel really uneasy about it, taking him out of where he's comfortable on that right wing. I put this in our BBC column this week. This was the subject that I covered, and it's promising that David Moyes has hinted at it. He's now done it, and Bowen's got goals in that position. But at the same time, he's got 49 goals for West Ham now, and 47 of those have come as a right winger. Yeah, it's like when he did it with Arnautovic, that was a gamble to take, because Arnautovic was ineffective in the wide areas. He wasn't playing well in the wide areas, so it was a gamble worth taking. Let's try him up front, see what happens, and it paid off. Antonio, similar thing. He's been converted into a striker. Yeah, and largely you can say that conversion has worked. He's ended up being our top scorer in Premier League era. He's coming up to 80 goals for us now. So you go, okay, fair enough. That also worked. But with Bowen, he's already established himself as a very, very, very effective and prolific right winger in attack. Yeah. Don't think he's the right player to convert. You convert Kudus if you want to. I just don't. I'm still uneasy about that decision. But I'm not a Premier League manager. I'm not David Moyes. I'm not getting paid all that money to take those gambles. And so far, it's paid off. I'm still surprised that Bowen won that header in the corner. On the corner, I know. Scored, because it was like, who got that? It's like, it's Jared Bowen. I was like, how the hell has he won a header from a corner and scored as well? But it's promising. It's promising.
I quite agree with you. I was sort of thinking about this, and it was as close as I've got ever actually to writing a note down that I want to say on the podcast during a game. I know you're probably listening thinking, surely any diligent podcaster, that's exactly what they would do. And you would be right. But it's not something I do. But I made a point of thinking that because I was like, well, I should say on the pod this week that I have completely changed my mind because I was dead against it. I basically said exactly what you said a few weeks ago or a while ago when it came out that Moyes was hinting at it. I was like, no, what are you doing? Just sign a striker. And I've had a change of heart on that as long as it's up until January, to be honest. I think Antonio and Ings now offer so little. And look, the Divine Mabama thing, it's slowly eking out that there's more to it. They wanted to sign a contract and never playing him was obviously part of that discussion. David Moyes comments this week saying, basically blaming his agent, saying, there's lots of players before who've been in Divine's position who've made terrible decisions moving away from the club. I guess he's sort of talking about Grady Diangana, maybe Jeremy Ngakia. And, I'm inclined to agree with David Moyes an element there. But I think the reason he's not been involved so much this season is because he's not signing a contract. Fans will have you believe it's because Moyes is a tactical dinosaur who thinks Ings and he thinks Antonio's better, but he thinks Danny Ings is better than him. It's not. There's more than that. It's obviously that's a position from the club. Look, unless you're going to sign a new deal, you're not getting involved in the team, mate. But I honestly do think that Antonio and Ings now offer so little up front that that team Moyes played on the weekend is our best starting 11 right now, in my opinion. Yeah. So I've done a change of stance on that because I agree with you on Bowen. I think when you've already got an elite level Premier League right winger, play that bloke at right wing. You wouldn't play Mo Salah up front, would you? You wouldn't convert him to like an adopted centre forward or whatever. But I have changed my mind in that until January, I don't want to see him playing there for the rest of the season, Jared Bowen. But I'm happy for if it means that Ings and Antonio don't get anywhere near the team, and we play a team that doesn't have Benrahma in it either. That's why I text you before the game. Antonio and Benrahma on the bench when both fit, inject it into my veins.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy until January, but we still need a specialist striker.
I agree with everything you said. I don't think it's going to play out that way. I think if it carries on the way it is with Bowen getting in amongst the goals as a striker and putting in those performances up front, that gives David Moyes every excuse not to buy a striker in January. And we might still go and do that. But we know that Moyes doesn't really like the January transfer window. He said it countless times over the years.
Yeah, but we've made some good signings, haven't we?
Yeah, but countless times over the years, he's always said it's he finds it hard to bring in the right players in January, which is true. But he's always kind of tried to hammer that home to the fans, lower your expectations in the January transfer window because essentially
and the summer one.
Yeah, he doesn't like signing players in January unless he really, really has to. And I think if Bowen becomes our striker between now and the new year, bangs in another 5 or 6 goals or whatever it is, why would Moyes go into the January window and try and buy a striker when he can rely on Bowen, especially if then Kudus plays out the right wing, starts banging goals in from right wing? He's going to be looking at it going, well, what's the point? What's the point? I've got 2 backup strikers in Antonio and Ings. I can call on them if I need to. But in the meantime, I'm going to stick with what's working. And that wouldn't be a bad way of going about it, but I still would prefer Bowen on the right wing long term. But and I think, and I said this in the column, I said how many times we've got to try and convert other players into strikers before we just have to get it right in the transfer window and actually buy a proper striker. We can't go year after year going, oh, we still haven't found a right striker. Which player can we convert into a striker? Yeah. Like, it's not. If we want to get to where we want to get to, and continue where we've been over the last 2-3 years, that can't be the strategy. It can't be the strategy. And yeah, okay, Bowen could turn out to be a really good striker, but Arnautovic did, and he wasn't a striker. Fine, but it's not the strategy that we should be looking for going forward if we have aspirations of becoming a consistent top 6, top 7 Premier League football club and winning the odd trophy here and there.
Yeah, totally agree with you, mate. One thing, just want to get your thoughts on. You touched on it briefly there. Interesting with Kudus. Loads of fans have been. You know what else is absolutely hilarious? The amount of people, West Ham fans in the stadium, who call him kudos.
Yeah,
because it sounds like a word similar, the one they already know, as in kudos to Kudus. His name is Mohammed Kudus. It's a U. Yeah. There's 2 U's in his surname. But yeah, so many people call him kudos around me in the stadium. Makes me laugh. But look, fans have been calling for him to start. And fair enough. I still think, like I said, that was our best starting 11. If I was manager, that's the starting 11 I pick, the one I picked for Sunday. Kudus starts sort of pretty explosively, but I think there's a couple of games now he's sort of gone. I'd still obviously rather have him there than Benrahma, no doubt about it, but he's gone a bit more as over a 90-minute period. He has quiet spells, doesn't he, where he goes a little bit missing, maybe a little bit anonymous. He's still nice and efficient with the ball, which I like. So it's not like you're watching Benrahma and as soon as he gets it, you're like, oh well, congratulations on your goal kick / throw-in opposition. I still back Kudus to pass to one of the blokes in the claret and blue shirt, which is still obviously a step up to what we've been used to recently. But yeah, spells where he sort of go missing a bit.
Yeah, he was quiet against Forest, I thought. Particularly in the second half, like I said, it did make me wonder whether he was being told to just put his foot on the brake a little bit, maybe in that second half, because he just didn't seem like he was allowed to drive forward with the ball every time he got it out on that right hand side. I still think he's trying to find his feet a little bit in the system, in the team. He's only just started starting games as well, so there's a difference between starting games regularly and come off the bench regularly. So yeah, I think he's already proven that he can score goals. We've seen that. His goal against Arsenal, goal against Brentford, top class goals. And I think long term, he will be a really effective goal scorer for us. I think he could go on and have a very similar output as Bowen on that right hand side or anywhere else in that front three. Yeah, I think he's that good. But yeah, he's still so early on in his West Ham career that I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt. And so far he's got 5 goals in 15 games. It's not a bad start to your West Ham career, is it?
No, absolutely not, mate. Look, just hats off as well. I thought Paqueta played well again. He obviously still does that thing where he shows spells where he's like, I'm too good for this, and this is boring me having to play with all you mortals. But do you know what I mean? There's a couple of times, isn't there? It's just everything's so easy to him. He's just strong as an ox. He's absolutely mercurial. He's got such a deft touch. He's just like, I'm so much better than you lot. So I'm just going to, even though I'm in my own half on the edge of my own area, I'm going to do an outside of my left foot back heel, whether you like it or not. And it's like, okay, Lucas, we know you're good. That one did go to Nottingham Forest, though, and they did nearly score. There are times where I still find him frustrating. But he's just brilliant again, wasn't he? I like the stuff he does do. Again, he's scoring. That's the difference. People will tell you, oh, what's the difference between him and Benrahma? Well, it's that Paqueta's been putting the ball in the net on the reg still, isn't he?
Yeah, I said this to my brother, and I don't know what you think of this, but he's like a hybrid of Paolo Di Canio, Dimitri Payet, and Marko Arnautovic.
Nice.
He's got the flair. Yeah. He often wanders around like he can't be bothered, like Arnautovic used to do every now and then. Yeah. He's got the flair like Payet a little bit. And he's got a little bit of the passion like Di Canio had. And I absolutely love him because I'm going to swear it. He's a massive bastard. He's not as much of a bastard as Arnautovic was, but he is a bit of a bastard. He knows he's much better than anyone else in that team. And normally more often not on the pitch. Yeah. But he always, sometimes he wanders about like he doesn't want to be there. But I just think he's got so much to his game in attack and in defence. Like he's got one of the highest tackling rates in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
So he does both sides of his game are top notch. But he offers something that we haven't seen since some of those players I mentioned, and I think he's just a bit of a hybrid of all three. I absolutely love him. I don't want him to ever leave the football club because I just adore the bloke. And I think there were question marks when he first signed, whether he had anything about him, whether he could live up to the expectation. And currently, mate, he's living up to it because. But I just absolutely love the bloke. I think he's funny, entertaining, skillful. All in equal measure. And I hope City don't want to sign him now because that's going to be my worry over the next 12 months.
I'm telling you, mate, that £85 million release clause in the summer, if he even lasts that long,
got to double it.
Honest. No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be an absolute bargain. I said that last season when they failed to sign him. 85 mil is going to be an absolute bargain for Paqueta. He's a Rolls Royce of a footballer, and a little bit of a Soufal. I thought was good. He did get booked, and the man he was marking, Elanga, scored one of Forest goals, but he still got the in-stadium man of the match award. I was sitting next to a friend of the bloke who picked Soufal, and I think he's an old-time favourite, so I may have just wanted the opportunity to meet him.
So it was it? Because we were standing there, we were like, what? And I thought, I bet it's a sponsor that really wants to meet Soufal after the game.
I think it was that. Yeah, I was sat next to a bloke who was texting the bloke, and he texted the bloke next to me and said, "You wait till I see you. I've picked a man of the match." Is the words I heard come out the fella's mouth who was next to me, and then it was Soufal, and they were all laughing about it. So I think he just really, really loves Vladimir Soufal and wanted to present him with a bottle of bubbly after the game. And hats off to the whole team really, but Thomas Souček as well. I thought had a real I thought he played really well, did well to get the goal as well. All in all, thoroughly positive time. We're not going to do final thoughts, James, this week because there isn't really anything else to say that we've already covered. Just a reminder, of course, to follow us in all the usual places. You know where we are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We remind you every week. So, go and follow us on all the platforms. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and do as well what Jonesy said. Go to our Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. Go to the pinned tweet, and that's where the WhatsApp channel is that Jonesy has set up. So it's just another way for you to engage and interact with the content and see it in a little bit more of a direct fashion. Buy us a pint if you want to buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. Email us wearewesthampod@gmail.com. Leave us 5 stars and review on Apple Podcasts and all of that sort of stuff. Plus, please do go and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you don't already. We'll be very grateful for that. 2 wins from 2 for West Ham United going in to the international break. Things are starting to look up again, and I know it may seem like week in, week out, we go, things are starting to look up again. Things not looking so good, and that's how we continue to sign out the podcast. But that is basically the nature of being a football fan. It's basically the nature of being a West Ham fan. We're doing very well indeed. We're in the top half of the Premier League, 9th after a very, very tricky start. We've got some, I would say, more forgiving games on the horizon, which give us a real shot at being in the mix for those European places for a 4th consecutive season. Plus, we're top of the Europa League group, giving ourselves a great chance to win it and skip that dreaded bye round against the Champions League dropouts, which also saves us a couple of games. And we're through to the next round of the League Cup. It can't really get much better at this stage of the season. Perhaps 1 or 2 extra points in the Premier League would have been nice, but all in all, given the teams we've played, it's been a pretty good start. This is a pretty good place to be, 14th of November 2023, if you're a West Ham fan, regardless of what lots of the misogs and the naysayers may tell you, either in person or on social media. But if you're listening to the We Are West Ham podcast, you will know that we are West Ham, are massive. West Ham are massive. Up the Hammers. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll speak to you next week.